Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV, Alternative Media Television. The truth. It is, of course, Wednesday, October 5th, 2016. Thank you for all of your tremendous support. We, of course, covered the Trump rally in Prescott Valley, Arizona yesterday, and it was pretty amazing. We've gotten a lot of footage. We just released a video with Sheriff Joe, who denied a very high-profile, pun intended, racial profiling investigation, which has been kind of this ongoing saga in Arizona and nationwide for many, many months. We're going to explain a little bit of that today, give you some context to Sheriff Joe Arpaio. You know, the first thing we noticed at the rally was how packed this event truly was. Now, at the Prescott Valley Event Center, it holds roughly 5,000 people. Sold out. Absolutely sold out, in lines wrapped around the building. Men, women, children, Latinos, Caucasians. Fair enough, didn't see a lot of African Americans, admittedly, but there's not really a lot of diversity there in that part of Arizona. But people just pumped up. We spoke with an individual named Cole, who essentially had the shit kicked out of him because he was basically sucker punched in California, where he took 6 stitches right across the forehead for just being pro-Trump. You see, this is what the social justice warriors do. The leftists that are super PC, they punch you right in the face where you've got blood gushing down your entire body because you're exercising your right to vote and your freedom of speech. You see, it's the radical leftists that are far more violent than the Trump supporters that welcome the protesters, who, by the way, really didn't show up yesterday. In fact, we've got a video with 1, 2, 3, 4 Hillary Clinton supporters. That was it. There were 4 supporters protesting this Trump rally in Prescott. Now, I must say that Donald Trump is very impressive. Here's a man who's, about 70 years old, looks great, has tons of energy, can hold a crowd, gives an amazing speech for over an hour, and he's 70 years old and knows what he's talking about. I mean, he has so much unbelievable energy. It's ridiculous. It was like being at a rock concert. Now, we did not get an interview with him, although we had reached out prior, in the days prior, with his staff and had been pushing and pushing and pushing for an interview. But Trump has a wall pretty much built around him right now. I mean, you can't get close to him. He's got Secret Service. By the way, I don't know why he would trust Secret Service, because the government doesn't want him president of the United States, so why would that be good protection? I mean, if I was Trump, and this is probably the case, he has his own private security detail in addition to the Secret Service. So we did notice heightened security at this event. They had to do, security sweep for several hours. No Trump interview. We tried, but we did get an interview with Sheriff Joe Arpaio, which I'll be discussing, giving you some context of here in a minute. We also got an interview with Trent Franks, U.S. Congressman, I think is pretty darn good. And we also spoke with Jeff DeWitt, our Arizona State Treasurer, who is now the Trump National Campaign COO. He was recently promoted. And I asked him some pretty tough questions about Trump being overmanaged, especially during the first presidential debate. He's trying to be presidential, but he doesn't attack Hillary Clinton on the foundation scandal at all, barely mentions the emails, doesn't bring up Bill Clinton's philandering, as Lester Holt continues to put Donald Trump on the defensive. Question after question after question to throw Donald Trump off and, of course, promote Hillary Rotten Clinton. The topics of discussion, first debate, birtherism, which, and this also relates to Sheriff Joe, one of the reasons I think that the Justice Department, the case has been moved there, and Obama's behind the scenes launching this investigation, whether or not Sheriff Joe wants to be passive-aggressive and admit it or not. Sexism, racism, all the isms, the PC card, basically, to throw Donald Trump off. And it's exactly what we got. Now, we, of course, also had the VP presidential debate yesterday as well. I'll be commenting a little bit about that today. But I want to thank you so much for your tremendous support, for making what we do possible. Also, Many of you we met yesterday at the event. It was great to shake your hand. It was great to meet you. Thank you for your support. It's tremendous. Thank you to everyone that subscribes on demand. It's the price of a cup of coffee, $4.95 a month, $49.95 a year. It allows us to do what we do, to ask tough questions, to get the uncensored, uncut, unfettered truth out to the American public and worldwide. So let's talk about Sheriff Joe, who I like, by the way. I've interviewed Sheriff Joe many times. In fact, AMTV covered several years back his entire birther investigation of Barack Obama in Sun City. The entire thing. We've had multiple interviews with him here locally, multiple interviews when we were at the RNC years ago. I like Sheriff Joe. He's tough. He puts criminals in pink jumpsuits. As he says so himself, he's the toughest sheriff in America. So I'm grabbing a hot dog yesterday in between kind of the security sweeps. I'm putting some mustard on it, and also I noticed another gentleman kind of move right next to me, and I turn over and I see it's Sheriff Joe. I'm like, oh hey Sheriff, hey, good to see you again. How are you doing? So that was kind of the context of it. I go grab our videographer. Alex comes with the camera. I say, hey Sheriff, do you mind? I know you're eating a hot dog here. Do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? He's got bodyguards all around him, by the way. Very, very heavy security presence. He's pretty cool. He's like, yeah, sure. So I start to unload the tough questions. Now, first of all, I don't know if he remembers me from the previous rounds. I mean, he's interviewed dozens of times a day. He's, constantly on Fox, ABC, all kinds of media. So I don't think he recognizes me. I think that he thinks that I'm trying to corner him, like I'm the mainstream media or something like that, even though, like I said, I like Sheriff Joe. I ask him specifically about his racial profiling investigation, which has just been conveniently, because it's politically motivated, handed over to the Justice Department, which I'm sure Barack Obama's behind the scenes, because he's still seething from the mouth, foaming from the mouth, over the birther investigation. What do I get, and what do we get from Sheriff Joe? Passive aggressiveness. Answering questions with another question. Contempt. In fact, he's actually been convicted of contempt, by the way. He essentially denies that there's even an ongoing investigation. He also says that it isn't recent, even though it is. In fact, we're expecting a further development in the coming days on this appeal process and everything that they're going through right now. So, obviously he can't talk about everything, but this has been blasted all across mainstream media. It's been blasted across alternative media, Drudge Report. We've talked about it, etc. So it was a very, very relevant question for me to ask, but he just kind of denies, gives us kind of this intellectual mind F. He's smart. He's a smart guy. He basically gave us exactly what the courts here in Arizona just found him in contempt for. He gave us contempt during the interview. Now, I think what you need to understand, again, I like Sheriff Joe. I think what you need to understand about this interview, well, let's get to this article first to show you some evidence. Investigation of Phoenix Sheriff Joe Arpaio being handed over to the Justice Department. This is as recent as August 27th. The investigation and possible prosecution of Metropolitan Phoenix Sheriff Joe Arpaio will be handled by the U.S. Justice Department after federal prosecutors in Arizona asked to be removed because of unspecified conflicts of interest, according to a court filing made public Friday. The U.S. Attorney's Office for Arizona said in its briefing filing in U.S. District Court in Phoenix that the case has been assigned to the Justice Department's Criminal Division Public Integrity Section. So Arizona is no longer handling this, and this moves to the U.S. Justice Department. Here's what you need to understand. This case is politically motivated. My suspicion and the likelihood politically motivated by you-know-who, Barack Obama, which is the question I asked him. Also people like Eric Holder, who at the time Arpaio had criticized and called incompetent. By the way, that's another interview I believe we got at the RNC with Sheriff Joe. So he's being quiet. He's really not giving us anything. He's got a hot dog in his hand. And this is what you don't see on camera. While I'm trying to, ask the questions and kind of rally back, he's got his bodyguard standing there doing this to me, like, shut the F up, move along here, I'm going to break up this shot. So it kind of ends abruptly, and we do the best that we can with the piece. And, you know, to Joe's credit, you know, he did agree to speak with us, etc., but kind of informally, and then I put him on the spot. So we got what we got. I still think that it's a very interesting interview. I think it's a good piece because, again, it tells you something here that this is a politically motivated event. Most of us know, obviously Sheriff Joe Arpaio knows, this is politically motivated by Barack Obama and others. Now, keep in mind that this racial profiling case has costed taxpayers millions of dollars. It was time to write another check to pay Sheriff Joe Arpaio's wrongdoing. It's an incredible amount of money, said Maricopa County Supervisor Andy Kunasek. The Maricopa County Board voted unanimously Wednesday to pay $4.5 million to the attorneys who proved to a federal judge that the sheriff racially profiled Latino drivers. We don't have the election of whether or not we want to pay this, Supervisor Denny Barney goes on to say. So it's cost taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. This racial profiling case where the allegation is, and again, there's an appeal process here, all these things that he doesn't really want to talk about, which is why Arpaio was short with us, and he's answering every question I ask of him with another question and then denying and then kind of just making shit up, to be honest with you as well. This has been mainstream. He's talked about it on CNN. He's talked about it on ABC 15. We'll roll some of our footage we caught earlier today. Washington Post, Joe Arpaio, America's toughest sheriff, wins primary race despite facing criminal prosecution. Sheriff Joe Arpaio found in contempt of court. He's been found in contempt of court in racial profiling case. A judge found the longtime sheriff of Metro Phoenix in contempt of court Friday for disobeying his orders in a racial profiling case, bringing the lawman who calls himself America's toughest sheriff a step closer to a possible criminal contempt case that could expose him to fines and even jail time. The ruling Friday marked one of the biggest legal defeats in the six-term career of Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who is known for cracking down on illegal immigration and was expected to lead to greater court oversight of his office. And then it goes on to say when all these subsequent hearings, et cetera, the appeal process, again, we're supposed to hear from this in days. So it's an extremely relevant story that he just doesn't want to talk about. He's basically denying, and to be honest, he's full of shit. But in all fairness, we did catch him off guard, and I'm asking very tough questions. His bodyguards are about, to break things up. Another report from CNN here. Tough-talking Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio could soon be facing criminal charges himself, etc., etc. So watch that interview. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of context to that story. I would love to follow up with it again, and we'd love to do a sit-down interview with Joe after the appeal process is finished and he can speak. So I think that would be a good opportunity, to get out the truth to the American public. But it just goes to show you, people like Sheriff Joe are smart. Hi, everybody. I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV, Alternative Media Television. I'm with the infamous Sheriff Joe. Sheriff, you're here at the Trump rally in Prescott Valley. There's an investigation ongoing right now that the Obama administration has essentially launched for targeting illegal immigrants here to Arizona. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Are you being treated unfairly?
I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, I've read this in the press. It's been all over the Drudge Report.
What investigation?
Well, hasn't there been an investigation launched for targeting Mexican Americans here in Arizona?
Well, that's a long time ago. Who are they targeting?
Well, I thought you were, to be honest with you. That's what I read in the mainstream media.
Well, do you believe everything you read, number one?
Now to a developing story and a bombshell today in the federal racial profiling case against Sheriff Joe Arpaio and his office.
Let's get straight to the racial profiling, because that does seem to be the heart of where this is heading now.
Well, that's their opinion. Now we're going to be in court, and we'll be able to put the true facts out on the table. That is their opinion, which, by the way, last month they had their big press conference saying they're taking me to court, which is very convenient. We're in an election year. They knew the 1070 was coming out. The president announced his new program last week on the kids. So what is this, all politics? The timing is very interesting when you talk about illegal immigration. Number two, that's an old investigation. Some remnants of it is now pending in court, which you can understand. I am not going to talk about it. because we're in a process of appealing, okay?
Do you think Trump has been tough enough during the first debate? I mean, he really didn't go after Hillary Clinton on the emails. He hasn't gone after the Clinton Foundation. Do you think that he should, round two?
Well, that's chapter one. There's two more chapters. So let's see what he does in the next two debates. I was with Governor Pence in Phoenix a couple of weeks ago. He was there. And he's having a debate tonight, and I'm sure he'll do great.
Now, with Hillary Clinton, if Trump gets in, he calls her Crooked Hillary, says she's a criminal. Does that mean that he's going to prosecute if he becomes president of the United States?
How do I know? I'm just a sheriff in Maricopa County. I'm not the Attorney General of the United States or the President. This is something you have to ask him.